Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Ukraine. During the previous 12 hours, lots of protests all over the entire territory of Ukraine were recorded. Let's discuss this situation in details. So, for example, this video is coming from the city of Kiev. Thousands chant "Shame in Kiev," largest protest of wartime Ukraine, triggered by parliament's votes to strip anti-corruption agencies' independence. So, as you can see, thousands of people came to the streets of Ukraine. Protests are gathering in the center of Kiev and Lvov against the law on limiting the powers of NABU and SAP. Now the anti-corruption bodies will be subordinated to the prosecutor general. This decision has raised concerns among politicians and activists about the growing authoritarianism in Zelensky's military administration. So this is another video from the city of Kiev. Thousands of people came to the streets. We are not talking about millions of people. This is very important, and we're not talking even about tens of thousands of people. We're just talking about several thousands, but as it was written in the previous article, this is the biggest protest in wartime Ukraine. This video we got from the city of Lvov. This is currently the second, let's say, capital, an official capital of Ukraine during the wartime. Here we can see another thousand of Ukrainians that came to the street, and as you can see, mainly there are students, because if you are older than 25 years old, most likely you would be captured by the recruit officers and would be sent to the line of combat contact. So people are afraid of these protests. Obviously, they don't want to risk, because they understand that during the wartime everything is possible with them, with their husbands, with their brothers, and with their probably fathers. Also, protests were recorded on the territory of the city of Odessa. But when talking about these protests, as you can see, there are just several hundreds of people. We're not talking even about thousands. And a protest was recorded on the territory of the city of Dnipro. So another hundred or several hundreds came to the streets with the purpose to fight with Zelensky and his authorities. So this is the situation, and this is just the first step in this battle. But obviously we understand that in coming days or months we're going to see more and more waves of protests all over the entire territory of Ukraine, especially after the end of the battle of the city of Pokrovsk, Constantinovka, Kupiansk, after the battle of the current line of combat contact. Now let's move further. Another important article published from the western part of Ukraine. Ukraine sources report that a Mirage 2000 fighter jet crashed in the Volyn region and the pilot ejected. On the evening of July 2022, while performing a flight mission on a Mirage 2000 fighter jet, an aircraft failure occurred, which the pilot reported to the flight manager. He then acted completely and as should be done in the crisis situation, and successfully ejected. So as you can see, this is the first probably proof, this is the first evidence that France also sent and deployed several Mirage 2000 on the territory of Ukraine. So now Ukraine has F-16s and Mirage 2000 that they will try to intensify the usage of them in coming days and months in clashes with the Russians. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, lots of changes were recorded, and first let's talk about the Sumy direction. According to information we have, the Ukrainians managed to completely secure the village of Kondrativka. The Russians currently control just 5% of the settlement. In the most northern part of the village, we are talking about this street, the street of Vysoka, but maybe the Russians by the morning of the 23rd of July lost control over this street as well. Pro-Ukrainian resources and neutral mappers reported that during the previous 12 hours, the Ukrainians finished the battle for the settlement of Kondrativka and forced the Russians to fall back completely. So this area is the change during the previous 24 hours. At the same time, the Russians continued their offensive operation in the area of Varachina and Yablunovka, and several tree lines were taken under complete Russian control. So this area was secured by the Russians, according to neutral mappers. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Constantinovka direction. The Russians continue their offensive operation, and during the previous 12 hours, lots of very interesting updates were recorded. First of all, and the most important, is that the Russians published the video from the most western part of the settlement of Belaya Gora. In this video, we can see how a Russian soldier raised the Russian flag in the most western part of the settlement. And this is another proof of the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation that was provided several days ago. This video is very important because, first of all, when talking about this video, we see that the Russians secured the village completely. The second important thing is that the Russian soldier that raised the flag wasn't afraid of Ukrainian drones, which means that the main forces of the armed forces of the Russian Federation moved much further in the western direction. Most likely, currently there are very heavy clashes for the settlement. Furthermore, according to neutral mappers, the Russians improved their positions along the railways from the south in Delivka in the direction of the same Alexandra Shultina. So these are, as you can see, the changes on the map by the morning of the 23rd of July. So this is the situation by the end of the 22nd of July, and this is the situation by the morning of the 23rd of July. As you can see, the Russians continue offensive, and the battle for the settlement of Alexandra Shultina for its southern part is going to start very soon. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians by the morning of the 23rd of July of 2025 managed to secure almost completely the southern part of the settlement of Sherbinovka. So the part of Sherbinovka which was located in this pocket was taken by the Russians by the morning of the 23rd of July. This is the situation by the evening of the 22nd, and this is the situation by the morning of 23rd. The Russians secured the territory, and most likely today or the day after or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information. So we see that the southwestern pocket of the Kleban-Byksky direction collapsed completely. Now Ukrainians most likely will try to organize their resistance and their defense along the villages of Katerinovka and Kleban-Byk. But something tells me that Ukrainians will not be able to hold their positions for a very long period of time. Now let's talk about N32 road and about northeastern flank of the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration. During the previous 24 hours and during the previous 12 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly. I would like to remind you that just yesterday, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that the settlement of Novotoretsk was taken by the Russians completely. So it seems that the Russians made another push in this area. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 21st of July. By the end of the 22nd of July, the Russians secured Novotoretsk and took under control the villages of Boykovka, Fedorovka, and managed to shorten the distance to the villages of Zatishak, Zaporizhia, and Pankovka, Vladimirovka. And by the morning of the 23rd of July, the Russians maintained their lines in this area. The Russians secured this dense network of the fortifications between Fedorovka and Novoekonomichna. The Russians improved their positions along this road between Fedorovka and Boykovka, and the Russians managed to improve their positions towards the settlement of Vladimirovka and Pankovka. All these updates were provided by neutral mappers, but when talking about pro-Russian resources, they gave us much bigger changes on the ground. So according to pro-Russian resources, as a result of clashes during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to take under complete control the settlement by the name of Vladimirovka and to answer the southeastern part of the settlement of Shakhove. So these are the changes that were provided by pro-Russian resources. Furthermore, according to the same resources, the Russians improved their positions in the northwestern direction and answered the settlement of Zaporizhia. So currently there are very heavy clashes for this settlement as well. So as we can see, for some reason the Russians decided not to move further in the southwestern and in the western direction with the purpose to outflank the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration, but the Russians decided to improve their positions in the northern, northwestern and the northeastern directions. It seems that first of all the Russians are tasked to take under complete control everything that is located along this red line, and only when finished this battle for this pocket, the Russians would continue their offensive, probably in the direction of the city of Pokrovsk itself. As for the southern direction, very interesting changes are coming to the southeast of the settlement of Mirnograd. This information was also provided by neutral mappers. This is the situation, for example, by the end of the 22nd of July, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 23rd of July. As you can see, as a result of clashes, the Russians took under control huge part of the railways that go in the direction of the city of Mirnograd from the south. As for the South Donetsk direction, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the fields in the western part of the Donetsk region. This information was confirmed both by neutral and by pro-Ukrainian resources, and according to this update, the Russians managed to improve their positions and to get very close to the settlement of Alexandergrad. It seems that in coming days, the battle for the village is going to start. At the same time, for the third day in a row, we haven't been receiving anything about the situation in the area of Zelený Gai. I would like to remind you that several days ago the Russians answered this settlement, but as for now we don't have anything additional about the progress on the ground, which means that currently there are very heavy clashes, and probably in a day or in 2 days we're going to receive additional changes and the village of Zelený Gai would be colored in Russian favor. Very interesting details are coming from the Zaporizhia direction, where the Russians resumed their offensive operation. I would like to remind you that just yesterday we were talking about very powerful offensive operation in the area of the village of Mala Takmachka. The video was published by pro-Russian resources. The video is 7 minutes length, and here we can see lots of episodes how exactly the Russians were fighting for this territory. One of the episodes of this video was recorded in the most eastern part of the settlement. Based on this video, we adjusted the map. And today we got additional changes in the western flank of the Zaporizhia direction. According to information we have, the Russians improved their position significantly in the central part of the settlement of Plavny. Basically, the Russians control around 50% already of the settlement, and the Russians continue their offensive operation in the northern direction with the purpose to secure the village of Plavny completely. Furthermore, several mappers reported that the Russians improved their position significantly in the fields to the east and northeast of the settlement of Kamenskaya. We're talking about these changes on the ground. So this is the situation by the end of the 22nd of July, and this is the situation by the end of the 23rd of July. As we can see right now, the Russians are focused to maintain the line of combat contact, probably along this red line between the settlements of Plavny, Kamenska, Stepo, and Mali Sherbaki. So everything along this red line is the task, this is the primary task of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So the sources are saying that today we're going to receive lots of very interesting updates because today at 7 p.m. Another round of talks between Ukraine and the Russian Federation is going to take place. So that is why right before this round we're going to receive additional changes on the ground that most likely would be provided by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.